Yippee! It's time for another exciting review from the Metal Gear series. This time, I'll be reviewing what many fans consider their favorite, as well as a seminal release in the history of video games, Metal Gear Solid. Now, this game was pretty much responsible, single-handedly, for creating the action stealth genre, or at least making it mainstream. Afterwards, there was a whole slew of copycats and imitators, most notably the Siphon Filter series. Released in 1998 on the original PlayStation, I'll admit, we really didn't know what to make of it. Remember, it really didn't have that much press back then, and it kind of flew under the radar for a while after its release. Much like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, it took a couple months for gamers, and indeed, word to spread about this new game in the series that had sat dormant from our childhoods on the NES. But when word finally got around, holy shit, everybody was playing this game, talking about it, trading copies and stories. What was it about this single game, where all you do is sneak around and rescue some people? Well, probably the fact that it's much more than sneaking around, and would go on to create not only its own genre, but its own entire world, becoming one of the most celebrated video game franchises of all time, and cemented Hideo Kojima's name into the history books forever. Let's get down to it. The game takes place in a frozen island chain in Alaska, specifically on an island called Shadow Moses. There's a nuclear weapons disposal facility located there, which a renegade special forces unit has seized control of. This unit is called Foxhound, and are led by the mercenary Liquid Snake. They take control of the island and come into possession of the nuclear walking tank, Metal Gear Rex. They demand that the government turn over the remains of the greatest soldier ever, Big Boss, or they'll launch a nuclear strike. Thus, the one and only Solid Snake is called in to infiltrate the island and stop shit from going down.
Special Forces Unit Foxhound.
As you make your way towards the island, during the game's intro, you're given the rundown by your commanding officer, Roy Campbell, as to what to expect and the parameters of the mission. Your two main objectives are to rescue DARPA Chief Donald Anderson and the President of ArmsTech, Kenneth Baker. Those are just two very small tasks you'll have to accomplish on your mission. You arrive at the island in a one-man submersible and ascend. Even way back when I was in high school and this game came out, I always found the intro to this game very memorable, and it's still very enjoyable whenever I play it now, nearly 20 years later.
Black Op. Don't expect any official support.
You're given more introduction via your codec on keeping a low profile, taking out guards, etc.
This is Snake. Colonel, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. What's the situation, Snake?
Looks like the elevator in the back is the only way up.
Just as I expected. You'll have to take the elevator to the surface, but make sure nobody sees you. If you need to, contact me by codec. The frequency is 140.85. When you want to use the codec, push the select button. When we need to contact you, the codec will beep.
It also gives the player a chance to test out the controls, and also to show off the innovative camera angles, especially when leading up against something near a corner. Cool. This little intro level was very new at the time, with the credits being displayed, and it isn't until you ascend in the elevator that the main title is finally shown. Reaching the upper deck is where the real game begins. There's all sorts of soldiers and searchlights looking to fuck your shit up. During this time, you'll also be introduced to a lot of your other supporting members like Mi Ling. A giant helicopter arrives, there's a cutscene, and the arch nemesis is revealed to be Liquid Snake. If you do a little exploring, you'll start to find equipment and rations.
It's the fastest way, but there's too much risk of being spotted by the enemy.
I can't just knock on the door and ask them to let me in. There's one sentry on the left and one on the right.
Make your way over to the large building, and in you go. When entering into structures where mobility is limited in case shit pops off, you are much more highly dependent on your Soliton radar for staying out of trouble. This appears in the upper right corner of the screen and gives you basic room layouts, but more importantly, shows you the enemy's field of vision, which is bad. Aside from picking up your first few weapons, you keep making your way towards the prison cells where the two hostages are being held.
Snake, the DARPA chief's signal is coming from somewhere in...
Exercises with a new type of...
You find the hostages, and it's here you learn Foxhound are attempting to launch Metal Gear Rex, big walking tank thing.
nuclear attack from any place on the face of the earth.
All they need are the two launch codes held by both prisoners. Donnie Anderson tells Snake that Rex has a deactivation safeguard, but kicks the bucket before spilling the goods.
Behind D.
One down, one to go. Creeping around, you come across Meryl, another captive. Meryl.
Hey, what happened?
She helps Snake escape, and some silliness ensues. Snake takes off in an elevator, and upon reaching the lower level, finds Kenny Baker tied up, rigged with C4. Revolver Ocelot shows up, and he and Snake have themselves a good old-fashioned cowboy hoedown. Just when Snake is about to win, this cyborg ninja shows up and cuts Ocelot's hand off. He also frees Baker, but who cares about that stupid fuck at this point? It's learned that Meryl has the deactivation codes for Rex, and that Snake should seek out Dr. Emmerich, a nerd. Baker continues spilling his guts and gives Snake a CD that contains the soundtrack to Metal Gear Solid. Information on the Metal Gear project.
All the data collected from this exercise. Don't play dumb. I know you were sent to get this. I hid it from that sadistic maniac while he was torturing me.
Baker keels over from high cholesterol, and Snake contacts Meryl, who opens the cargo hangar doors and allows you to advance north. You receive a cryptic codec message from someone identifying themselves only as Deep Throat, and this person warns you that the field is littered with mines, and a tank is waiting for you. Yippee!
Just call me Deep Throat. Deep Throat? The informant from the Watergate scandal? Never mind about that.
Who's in the tank, you ask? Well, it's none other than the first boss. Vulcan Raven, Giant, and Shaman. Okay, so here's the first example you'll see of Kojima's ridiculous bosses, and they're even more ridiculous names. Like, really? What in the fuck does some roided out nutcase with a minigun have to do with being a religious healer? It only gets worse. Oh, and in case you didn't pick up on it, the bosses in this game are named after two things. Their weapon is the first name, animal is the last name. Got it?
That's right. You belong on the ground.
So you subdue Vulcan, not kill him. You'll do that later in the game.
Snake is mine now. When I meet him next, I'll take special care of him.
Proceeding to Dr. Emmerich's office, you're once again attacked by the cyborg ninja, but you win. He disappears and Snake realizes that the ninja is actually Gray Fox.
Colonel.
Yes!
Ninja is Gray Fox.
The guy
No
who
doubt about
disappeared and you were sent to rescue in the original Metal Gear.
should know he died
Nice
in
throwback.
No. He should have died. But he didn't.
It turns out Gray Fox survived the destruction of the Outer Heaven compound
Happened right after you retired.
and was used as a guinea pig, given all sorts of fun drugs, and was experimented on, leading to the creation of the Genome Soldiers. You're given a bunch of droning dialogue by Otacon, aka Dr. Emmerich, and he explains how he was manipulated into creating Metal Gear Rex, and it wasn't his fault, and blah blah blah. Lastly, Otacon warns Snake that if the safeguard override doesn't work, he'll have to destroy Rex. Snake tracks down Meryl, but she only has one of the 3 codes needed to deactivate Rex. Psycho Mantis takes control of her, and Snake biffs her. You then battle Mantis in another silly boss fight. See, this fucker can read your mind, so he knows your controller input slightly before you do that. Basically, you're screwed. Oh, and if you have other Konami saved games on your PS1 memory card, he'll read that out loud for some extra gaming fun. In one of the doofiest boss battles ever, the only way to win is to physically unplug your controller from the system and plug it into the second controller port so he can't read your mind. What the fuck? You defeat him and continue towards Rex.
You're a sad, lonely man.
Come on, let's go.
As you cross another large field, Meryl is shot by a sniper. Sniper Wolf. After engaging in a sniper duel, Snake is captured anyways and tortured by Ocelot.
You're a hostage. There's no Geneva Convention. No one is coming to save you.
Talk hands in the air, let me see you. Fuck you. Talk hands in the air, let me see you. Fuck you.
There are 2 ways this torture sequence can go down, but either way, you end up in a cell with a corpse. Sounds like fun, no? Apparently, Donnie Anderson has been dead for a while. And the Donnie you talked to in the beginning? Yep, that wasn't Donnie. It was Decoy Octopus, master at eating mollusks and escaping from jars. Unfortunately, when the dumbass absorbed the real Don Anderson's blood in order to mimic him, he also absorbed the Fox Die virus, but we'll come back to that later. Then a long exposition erupts between Snake and Campbell, and we learn that this whole thing has been a huge setup. Because America and Russia are about to sign a new treaty, and nobody in the government knew about Rex's existence, and it'd just be a big shitstorm, etc., etc. It's also learned that the reason Foxhound wants Big Boss's remains is to use his DNA to create genetically enhanced super soldiers. Another big no-no. Eventually, Otacon, using stealth camouflage, helps Snake escape his cell using ketchup.
I thought you might be hungry.
Snake takes off for the communication towers. You're confronted by Liquid Snake again, this time in a Hind D.
A Hind D?
Yes, a Hind D.
A Hind D?
That's what I said. I guess he was out just flying around this whole time. You blow his ass up with Stinger missiles and move on to an elevator.
See you in hell, Liquid.
There's mechanical problems as the elevator won't move. Snake asks why. Otacon says the elevator is over its weight limit. Apparently, Otacon had 4 other camouflage suits besides the one he had that all disappeared. So the other dudes are all hiding in the elevator with you. Kick their asses and it's round 2 with Sniper Wolf. Blow her head off and Snake and Otacon part ways.
Okay, I'll be searching too.
Heading towards Rex's storage enclosure, there's another long exposition about if Naomi is a spy, and if Miller is lying, and does Campbell know more than he's letting on. Otacon sneaks into Rex's control room and informs Snake that he may be able to hack the system. It's also learned that the source of Rex's terrifying weapons is that it's able to fire stealth nuclear warheads from its railgun. Oh shit.
Like a projectile. It doesn't use fuel, so it isn't considered a missile. That way it can get around all sorts of international treaties.
Pretty sneaky.
Overhearing Liquid and Ocelot talking, we learn that the whole plan was to get the world's superpowers to attack each other. Mutually assured destruction, thus honoring the original idea of Big Boss that a world would know what endless war is, and soldiers would always have a place. It's also discussed that $1 billion ransom would be used to find a cure not only for the genome soldiers, but the Fox Die virus as well. Liquid ultimately wants to combine his forces with Gorenkovich's army and turn Shadow Moses into the new Outer Heaven. Oh shit.
It's a nuclear test site.
Snake is discovered by Ocelot and the PAL key is lost down a ditch, but Snake gets it back. Naomi is arrested by Campbell and admits to being a spy. She has a sob story about how she was forced to because Gray Fox is her brother. She tells Snake that he was also injected with Fox Dye as sort of a human weapon against the rest of the Foxhound. Unfortunately, it's also lethal to Snake, as you find out later in Metal Gear Solid 4. Snake finally inputs the PAL codes into Rex, inadvertently activating it. Yep, it was all a trick.
No, why?
Ready for launch.
I deactivated it.
Thank you, Snake. Now the detonation code is completed.
Then it's revealed that Miller was in fact Liquid Snake this whole time, and he was just manipulating Snake. Liquid attempts to kill Snake by locking him in the control room with deadly gas, but Snake escapes. Then we get the bombshell that Solid Snake and Liquid Snake are in fact not only twins, but are genetic clones of Big Boss. As a result of the Les Enfants Terribles project, sort of like Les Miserables, except with kids. Liquid climbs aboard Rex and attacks Snake. Gray Fox shows up and damages the radome on top of Rex, blinding Liquid. He then continues the attack, but is eventually crushed to death. You fire Stinger missiles at Rex and destroy it. Snake gets knocked out and wakes up on top of the destroyed Rex, having been taken prisoner by Liquid. A brouhaha ensues and you throw Liquid's ass off Rex, apparently killing him. You're informed that Campbell has called in a nuclear strike on the island, so it's time to get the hell out of Dodge. You and Meryl escape in a Jeep, and da-da-da-da, Liquid shows up again. There's a crash, and before he can kill Snake, Liquid apparently dies again from Fox Dye. But it's all good, because Campbell figured out what was going on and called off the airstrike. Snake and Meryl run away into the Alaskan wilderness together.
I know I'll find it.
Well, that's the ending if you did the torture sequence right. If you submitted to it, Snake and Otacon ride off into the sunset together. The end. There's a short conclusion to the game as Ocelot reports to the President, actually being a double agent. Turns out the President is none other than Solidus Snake, the third clone created with Solid and Liquid.
Yes, the DARPA chief knew my identity.
Solidus?
Disposed of.
If he's a combination of solid and liquid, shouldn't he be called like Jello Snake or something?
Goodbye, Mr. President.
When looking back at the game, back during the time it came out, and then playing through it again for this review, I'd have to say that while the game was a milestone in gaming, it really doesn't hold up in its entirety, especially when you look at the games in the series that have come out since. Don't get me wrong, it's still a fun little nostalgic romp through the PS1 days, but as a game overall, there's probably a decent amount of reason I haven't played it in almost 20 years, and it's not because of lack of time. While the graphics are decent for a PS1 game, much like Final Fantasy VII and other high-profile games of the time, it's really starting to show its age. Everything is simplistic enough in order to comply with the hardware of the PS1. But, to me, they've kinda lost their charm since the late 90s. It is until you go back and play it nowadays that you really see how primitive the entire game is. Again, not ignorant of the obvious. I haven't played the remake on the Nintendo GameCube, so I'm not sure if the higher resolution helps, but from the reviews I've seen in other visual media, it looks like the game got quite a facelift. Speaking of which, anybody happen to know why the snow in the game is blue? Is this just an artistic choice? I don't know. The audio is also damn good for the most part. The game opens with the now iconic chant, and the whole orchestral score is very well done for a PS1 game. Besides a few tunes in the beginning, there really have never been any standout tracks for me, because usually the music in the game is classified into two categories, either action or its background noise. Plus, there's sections of the game that have no music to begin with, so there's that. All the sound effects are nicely done, but again, those two are kept to a minimum. Along the same lines, much has already been said about the voice acting, and basically put David Hayter in the spotlight. He would go on to voice Snake in various forms in every Metal Gear game following, until Kojima totally fucked up and replaced him for Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain with Kiefer Sutherland of all people. I mean, I'm a fan of The Lost Boys and other movies he's been in, but that role belongs to Hayter. I'm sorry. The voice work really brings the characters to life, never mind none of the models have mouths. Sometimes the voice actor's dialogue can get a little over the top, but it's easy to dismiss. Overall, Metal Gear Solid was and still is a seminal video game, not only in the PlayStation's history, but just in video games in general. Although the original game is a classic, it was Metal Gear Solid that blew the doors off the industry, and would go on to become one of the most consistently highly rated video game series ever. Right up there with Mario Brothers and Zelda. There was a few additional releases of the game besides the aforementioned GameCube remake, which was in 2004. There was Metal Gear Solid Integral in Japan, which included a third disc, packed with 300 VR missions and other game options including a very easy game mode. Us in the States ended up getting the standalone release, Metal Gear Solid VR Missions, which is just a third disc by itself from Integral and was released in 1999. As previously stated, while I still enjoy a playthrough here and there, I grew up with this game and through that generation of gaming, so new players of today may be turned off by the simple visuals and storyline compared to, say, Metal Gear Solid 4, which is like fucking miles beyond what the original did. But, let me tell you, if you were a gamer back then, or grew up with this game in your collection, it'll always be special, and that's what matters. If you've never played the original Metal Gear Solid, try to find a discount copy somewhere on eBay, or download the digital version. At least you'll enjoy playing a little bit of history. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, go check this classic out. You won't regret it.
You mustn't allow yourself to be chained to fate, to be ruled by your genes. Humans can choose the type of life they want to live. The important thing is that you choose life, and then live.
Don't forget to check out my Twitch account for live shoot-'em-up action, my real-time playthrough videos, MAME Mondays, and other fun gaming videos as well.